Susupti means it is a dreamless state, but there are dimensions of consciousness that you're aware of. The neurological system in the body, if we have a way of monitoring that, I think the entire art of anesthesia could raise to a different level at a very minimum interference. When you disengage with memory, suddenly there is no past, present and future, so there is no time. Because there is no time, there is no space.
We've tried to really understand what's happened. And we've done this by doing a number of studies in humans as well as in animals. And so I'll just give you the quick back-of-the-envelope way to think about it. When you take the anesthesia drugs, or when they're given to you by the anesthesiologist, the brain isn't turned off. You know, it's not like all of a sudden the switch flips. If you look at what happens to the brain, it's actually in a highly dynamic state. It's really, the actual circuits in the brain are oscillating. They're creating waves. And to give you some sense of this, if you look at my hands like this and they're oscillating now, this is the way your brain is in a normal state of, forgive me, consciousness, right? All right? All right? All right? As I understand it in my little limited way, all right? All right? But then what happens is the drugs take over the circuits, and now the circuits oscillate like this. And as long as you keep the drugs there, they're doing that. Now, what does that mean? It means that if this brain area was communicating with that brain area so that you could be conscious, it can no longer do that. When you turn the drugs off, the brain returns. As long as you keep the drugs on, it does this. It creates these oscillations. As we take anesthesia seriously, in other words, don't say, oh, we just give you drugs and you go away and you come back. As we take it seriously and study it, then we can start interacting with our neurology colleagues and make links between problems that they're working on. We can actually begin to have conversations with, distinguished individuals like sadguru, who can help us understand what is it we're actually doing on a deeper level. But if we haven't taken what we do seriously, in terms of what's happening in the brain, we're not in that position. And that's where I'd like to think that we're trying to move the research now. To, in other words, use anesthesia, the study of anesthesia, to help us connect with some of these deeper ideas about the brain, the mind, and also consciousness.
Namaskaram. Dr. Brown and Dr. Skiff, highly accomplished doctors in their areas of proficiency, but I'm completely unschooled. So, because for me, the only way I know anything I know is from my own experience. So my language and my expression could be a bit abrasive, or if it seems abrasive, please pardon me because I'm nearly illiterate. So, this, first of all, the nature of the language that we are speaking, I'm talking about the English language. This language is very good for describing and defining external things, but is very limited when it comes to internal dimensions of many aspects of who we are. We do not look as brain as a very significant aspect because we see intelligence is right across the system. Generally, in most people's understanding, I believe, a combination of memory and intelligence is considered as mind. Am I right on this? If you take this as a definition, it is a fact that every cell in our body carries millions of fold much more memory than the entire brain can carry. Because these cells in the body remember even what happened 1,000,000 years ago. It remembers the skin tone of your forefathers from 1,000,000 years, nothing has changed. It never gets confused. So what you can carry in the brain as conscious memory, in the yogic sciences, we don't attach any significance to your thought. Whatever you're thinking, it's of no consequence to me. This is why whatever somebody is saying, we don't listen to them. We just feel them. We just feel them. What is their chemistry, what is their… how they are right now. I don't care what they are saying. Recycling of the data that we have already gathered. No thought can come which is absolutely fresh. Permutations and combinations of the data that we already have. Right now, a lot of people coming up to me very fearfully and saying, Sadguru, this artificial intelligence is coming, if they come, they will take over the world. I said, if they take over and run the damn thing, you're on a holiday, isn't it? But it is a fact that everything that we can gather as information, analyze and express and use it in many ways, all these things, machines will be doing it better than us in the next 10 to 15 years' time. Everything that is data-based processing, machines will do way better than us. So there is this fear. I think it's a very good time. This is the time we need to explore an intelligence beyond intellect. Because we have become so intellectual, we have become so brain-oriented in our approach to everything. As you rightly said, nothing is really turned off, we've just broken the communication. After all, the purpose is to go through something which is generally extremely painful without pain. That is how the entire anesthetic science has come up. So, you're just breaking the communication and that's not happening, it serves that purpose. So, being wakeful and being conscious are two different things. A dream state is far more vivid than wakeful state for most human beings. It's like going to a cinema. If you go to a cinema, the key factor of the impact of the cinema on you is turning off the lights. This is something most people don't understand. If you don't turn off the lights, cinema will be no good, it doesn't matter how well it's made. Turn on the lights and watch the cinema, you will see a great cinema becomes nothing. So turning off the lights is important. So turning off the lights in our experience is the eyelids, you down the shutters, the world is off. Now you start your own world. So dream state is like a cinema, it's far more impactful. People love their cinema stars more than the people that they've lived with for 25 years. But they have not even seen them, all they saw was play of light and sound. But that is far more impactful simply because lights are off. So, eyelid is that, if you roll it down, lights should be off, world should be closed. But right now, the problem is this mental faculty has not been taken charge of, so it's running wild all the time with eyes closed. So this dream state is considered a more powerful state than Jagriti. Jagriti or wakefulness is important for performing action in the world. But for human consciousness, in terms of profoundness of experience, dream is always more profound than walking on the street. Yes, most of you have experienced this. The next state is called a susupti. Susupti means it is a dreamless state. But there are dimensions of consciousness that you're aware of. It's a totally dreamless sleep state, but you're aware. There is no picturization, there is no video running in your mind, there are no pictures, there are no people, there are no words, but you're conscious in your sleep. This is a very powerful state. If you really want to manifest something in your life, this is something to be explored. And the next one is called as Turya. This is consciousness, where there is no memory involved of any kind. Essentially in the yogic sciences, we are looking at consciousness as an intelligence beyond memory. If there is memory, memory is considered a boundary in the sense, this is one person, this is another person, simply because this embodies one kind of memory and that embodies another kind of memory. This has become one kind of person, this has become another kind of person. Essentially, it is in the memory. Memory does not mean just what I remember and you remember. Genetic memory is there, evolutionary memory is there, elemental memory is there, atomic memory is there, karmic memory is there. Inarticulate and articulate memories are there, but generally we are thinking memory means consciously what we can remember. But today, if we eat dog food, we'll not become dogs. Something within us remembers, no matter what you eat, this has to be only transformed into a human being. It doesn't matter what you eat. If you and a cow every day eat a mango, no merger will happen. Perfect memory is established, evolutionary memory is absolute. So, these different dimensions of memory are playing on a daily basis. People are thinking their thoughts are free. It's a joke because your memory is determining everything. So, largely in one single word we call this karma. Karma means the residual impact of all the memory that you have, how it is impacting every thought, every emotion, every action, the very way you sit and stand. See, if you see somebody walking far away, let's say half a mile away you see someone walking, if he's your friend, just the way they're moving their body, you say, oh, that's him. There are 7 billion plus people, but this particular man walks in a unique way, all right? Just two-leg walking, everybody walks, but still it is so unique. So this is what we are referring to as karma, that the residual impact of memory, varieties of memory. We recognize memory as 8 basic forms of memory, which are determining how you are right now. The very way you sit, stand, breathe, understand, perceive life is determined by this memory. But there is an intelligence beyond memory, which we call as turya or chitta. This is consciousness. In my simple understanding, anesthesia as a process has come into being in this world or is existing right now because there is pain. Pain, when it happens to us, is a bad thing. Nobody wants pain. But at the same time, if there was no pain, most people would not even know how to preserve their own body. See, wherever there is no pain, in how many ways they've cut it. Suppose there was no pain in your nose, they would have cut it in various shapes. It's part of the fashion. If there's no pain at all, believe me, they would have pulled out intestines and swing it on the street and go. You have any doubt about that?
None whatsoever.
So, essentially because there is pain in the body, and pain is a protective mechanism. Because most human beings still don't have the necessary intelligence even to preserve themselves. If there was no pain, even if a bicycle comes, people step back, don't think this is out of civilization. Consequence of pain. If there was no pain, even if a truck comes, they would just walk. Yes, they would. So, because of pain, so pain is essentially a protective mechanism for us. Without it, people wouldn't know how to stay alive, how to stay in one piece, they would have cut themselves into pieces. So, but sometimes, as what is called as surgery, is in some way cutting people up.
Sure.
So it has become a necessity to cut someone. How to cut them? With minimum amount of disturbance to the system. That's the whole effort. So in this effort, as you said, essentially you're disengaging different parts of the brain. I don't know if it's an exact science or it's generally getting disengaged. Whichever way, is it getting effectively disengaged that people go through surgeries without even knowing what happened? When something major was done to them, their ribs were opened up and ribcage was opened up, heart was opened up, brain was opened up, they don't even know what happened. Very innocently, they wake up after a day or so, whatever amount of time. So this is anesthesia. How could we use… See, one dimension, because when we were speaking in the room, when you said Essentially, if I'm wrong, please correct me, you're monitoring the physiological systems of heartbeat, blood pressure and temperature,
Brain waves.
whatever else, the physiological factors. If, I don't know if it's even a possibility, but if you find a way to monitor the neurological system, ignoring the physiological system completely, see, the concern may be the moment you put somebody on the table and start opening the body, the concern of a doctor or a surgeon may be that you don't want him dead on the table. So you're watching his heartbeat, you're watching his pulse and you're watching his all the other parameters. I understand and appreciate that concern, but instead of, okay, let's leave the physiological monitoring as it is, but if we have a way, I don't know if there is a way in the medical science, if we monitor the neurological system, not just the brain, the neurological system in the body, if we have a way of monitoring that, I think the entire art of anesthesia could raise to a different level at a very minimum interference.
He's not as uneducated as he would have you believe. See, he's actually quite educated.
That's pretty clear.
And I was curious because I think it was back in 1982 when you had like your first enlightenment experience, I think. And there's a story here. So you mentioned how it seemed like only 10 or 15 minutes had gone by. But what had happened is that you'd been out in this state for like maybe 4 hours or so when you actually when you came to and looked at your watch. The analogy is this is what people under anesthesia report all the time. In other words, they have this sense that no time has passed.
You were not around that day.
Maybe I'm reaching. But they report a very similar phenomenon, you know, that it seems like they'll wake up sometimes from anesthesia and they'll go, you know, have you started yet? You're done? They're actually quite surprised. So whatever our timekeeping mechanism is, right? It's different from sleep. It's noticeably different from sleep because often when you sleep, except in some rare instances, you have a sense that, you know, time has passed. You know, you went to sleep, you woke up, you know, you may not be able to judge it exactly. But characteristically, under anesthesia, when people come to, they feel like no time has passed. Any thoughts?
Mm-hmm. See, our sense of time, the only way human beings know time is by the cyclical movement of things that are happening. If the earth spins once, we call it a day. If the moon goes around the earth, we call it a month. If the planet goes around the sun, we call it a year. Or if the clock goes around, we call it an hour. Mm-hmm. So, only by cyclical movements we know time. What cyclical movement means is, all physical dimensions of the existence, from atomic to cosmic, exists only because of cyclical movements. Anything physical in the universe is naturally cyclical. Mm-hmm. So the entire yogic process is just about this, how to transcend the cyclical movement of our existence.
Space has sort of a time-like aspect where present and future are in the same distance. Is that kind of a restatement in any way?
This could seem contradictory to what is generally believed in fundamental physics. Modern physics is looking at space and time. Mm-hmm. The yogic sciences look at only time. There's only time, there is no space. Because there is time, there's a consequence of space. Okay. If there was no time, there would be no space. Mm-hmm. So time is the basic, okay, not space. Space is an illusion that's been created because we are engaged with our physical natures. So if you disengage with your physical nature, suddenly there is no time, so there is no space.
The world has a lot of problems, right? And, you know, one of the things that we need to solve. And we were talking about some of this, you know, just as we were sitting down there before the program started.
Can I correct that question a little bit, sir?
Sure.
The world doesn't have too many problems, it has only one problem, human beings.
Okay. So if we could focus on that one issue. All right. What do we do? How do we use, like, you know, the insights, the understanding, the enlightenment that you have to go after some of these issues? Because they're very real and they threaten us.
See, by every definition that we have made, we have defined ourselves as the most intelligent creatures on the planet. These are all our definitions. I don't know if the insects agree with us. But by our own definitions, we are the most intelligent of the species. So our understanding is right now, whoever dominates must be most intelligent. So for which we are paying a lot of price. Whoever is right now in domination, he is the most intelligent. If you go by that, we are the most intelligent. Maybe we are the most intellectual, yes, of all the creatures. But we are not the most intelligent, because we don't even know what to eat after these millions of years. Hello? Even now research is going on, what is the best thing to eat? If you put something in front of your dog, one sniff, he knows whether to eat or not to eat. So this is mainly because this is a new happening. This cerebral activity is a new happening. We're a bit too excited. Just like, you know, people are all engaged with their smartphones all the time. They're walking like this everywhere. They're not looking at the sunrise, even that they look in the phone screen. They look at the whole cosmos in their phone screen. Because the instrument is new. Next generation may not even look at it, probably. Right now it's new, everybody is engaged with it and they're calling it a smartphone. Generally, someone will refer to someone else as smart when they find that person is smarter than them, right? So, unfortunately for a whole lot of people, the phone is the smartest thing about them. Everybody has found a reason. Why? Well, somebody is suffering because they are poor, they're suffering their poverty. You make them rich, they'll suffer the taxes. They're not educated, they couldn't get into the school, they will suffer. Get them into the school, you've seen them suffering here. To the best school, they will get in and suffer. They're not married, they suffer, get them married. So they are not suffering their life, this is something that needs to be understood. They are not suffering their life. If you ask them what they're suffering, they're capable of suffering what happened 10 years ago. Yes or no? 10 years ago, something happened, they can still suffer. And they're capable of suffering what may happen day after tomorrow already. So essentially, their suffering is not about life. They're suffering two fantastic faculties that only human beings have. No other creature has such a vivid sense of memory as we have. No other creature has the kind of fantastic sense of imagination that we have. They're suffering their memory and their imagination, they're not suffering their life. Isn't it? Older generation thinks younger generation is crazy, younger generation thinks old people had for sure lost their marbles. Everybody is making these judgments. One culture thinks another culture is crazy. So, it is just a line that we artificially create and manage because we know if we cross that, we will not be able to control ourselves. Even when people get angry, the term that they use is yours always, I'm getting mad, so they know it. If you're in control of your mental faculties, this is called sanity. If you're not in control of your mental faculties, this is called insanity.
I have a larger question for Sadhguru. You spoke very eloquently about memory, intellection, asking us to put those aside. And I'm trying to understand exactly what you mean, because I haven't caught it, I'm sorry to say, because it seems to me those are the unique or extraordinary things about us as human beings, right? The fact that we have this historical memory going back to Mesopotamia and beyond, you know, in India, thousands of years, and also as individual human beings, and intellection, which allows us to build spaceships in addition to sit here and listen to you. So I'm not quite sure how you mean for us to leave those aside or place less value on them.
I did not talk about devaluing them or leaving them aside. What do you think? Is this planet round or flat?
I suspect it's quite round.
Really? You suspect it's round? You're not sure?
No, yes, I'm sure. It is round, in fact. In fact, I think that is how matter has to collect around gravity.
No, don't go there, gravity is another thing. But today we know it is round. Though, if I walk up and down this place, in my experience it feels flat. But we know it is round. We debated this for thousands of years, all right? But we couldn't figure it. But it became very clear to us only when we took off. We created some distance from the planet. You flew up there and looked very clearly, it looked round. You went and stood on the moon and looked around, 100% it's clear it's round. So what gave you this clarity is the distance. When you were in it, you thought any number of ways but you couldn't figure it. But the moment you had distance, you had clarity. So only in that context I said, you must know how to keep your accumulations aside. If you're carrying a bag, when you don't need it, you must be able to keep it aside. If all the time if you carry it, it'll become a torturous process. That's what is happening to people. Nothing wrong with your mind. It's just that all the time it's on and it's becoming torturous. Not knowing how to do, they're sozzling it out with alcohol or drug or something else. Essentially, they are unable to bear the activity of their own mind, isn't it? If they could keep this bag aside for some time, all we have accumulated, it would be nice. You won't lose it, because nobody's going to pick it up and go. It's there for you, but once there is a little distance, you have an absolute understanding of the nature of what it is, only then you can handle it the way you want. Right now, you're handling both your body and mind accidentally. When you do things accidentally, anxiety is normal, and that's what is happening. Because everything is accidental. Because there's no clarity about anything. Because the nature of intellect is such. If I ask you, would you like your intellect to be sharp or blunt? You must choose right now, I'm going to bless you. Sharp or blunt?
Sharp.
Sharp. So you understand, intellect is a cutting instrument. It's like a knife. The sharper, the better. If somebody is very sharp, you will say, oh, he's a razor sharp. Intellect, very sharp. So cutting instrument. Cutting instrument can be used for dissection. With dissection, we know many things. Did you do science in your high school? You cut open that frog and saw how the heart was pulsing. The frog didn't think much about it, that's another matter. But you came to know so many things in this world. Slicing a human body, slicing a flower, slicing an atom, we discovered so many things. But is this a complete way of knowing? Can I know you by dissecting you fully? Is it possible? Maybe I will know you better by including you, by engaging you, rather than dissecting you. By dissecting you, I may know your heart, liver, kidney and spleen, but I will not know anything about you. Only by inclusion I know. So, you are using a cutting instrument, or let's say you take your knife and try to sew your clothes, you will have tatters. So this is what is happening with approaching everything intellectually. Everything is going into tatters. We are trying to sew with a knife, it's not going to work. There are other dimensions of intelligence. Intellect is like a knife. Is a knife… Suppose we don't give a knife to a child's hand. Why? Knife is not dangerous. Child's hand is not steady, that is the problem, isn't it? You are in the surgery rooms all the time. Tell me on this planet, are knives taking more lives or making more lives? Hello? Really, it's taking more lives? Are you a surgeon? It is making more lives, both in the kitchen and the surgery table, it's making many lives. Here and there in an irresponsible hand, it's taking a life, isn't it?
Sure.
Knife is not dangerous, it is the hand, it is the identity which makes the knife dangerous. If there is no knife, just with the hand we will kill. Yes or no?
Sure.
So the third dimension of intelligence is called as manas. This manas is the silo of memory, which we were talking about, 8 different dimensions of memory: elemental memory, atomic memory, evolutionary memory, genetic memory, karmic memory, inarticulate memory, articulate memory and conscious memory. 8 dimensions of memory, everything that's happened from the beginning of creation here on this planet, from amoeba to now, everything, the memory of it is there in the body in some form. And every day you're using this memory in an unconscious way. You're using this memory, otherwise if you forget one day, suddenly you may start going like a reptile. No, it remembers the entire evolutionary process. And do not underestimate this. Now that you also said the planet is round, a simple thing with 2 legs, to walk on a damn round planet which is spinning, is not an easy thing. Do you know how much is involved? The physics of it is very super complex. Those of you who are on binges of alcohol, you understand how difficult it is to walk on a round planet. Or if you have a vertigo or something, then you understand. Because it's a very complex process to walk on a round planet which is spinning. But we are doing it effortlessly because of this evolution. It's not a simple thing. Moving from 4 legs to 2 legs is not a small development. A whole lot of neurological development has happened. Only because of that we are able to walk on 2 legs. So now this memory is acting all the time, and the access point is the identity. How you are identified, that is how you choose the memory. Whatever kind of memory, both of us may have same kind of memory, but if I am identified one way and he is identified another way, we will choose memory differently, organize memory differently and act differently. For the same education, aren't people going different ways? In the same house, 2 children are born, same genetics, same food, same school, are they not going in like this? Because depends on what kind of identity one has chosen. This disciplining or setting a limitless identity, not a small limited identity, must happen at an early age. If this doesn't happen, our intelligence will work against us. That's what is happening in the world today. The definition of death on one level is you lost your body. That's what it is. So, I mean, let's not go into other areas, they'll get you into very fuzzy places. About near-death experience, it's… what is being referred to as meditation? We have a certain type of meditation called shunya. That means shunya literally translates as emptiness. That's not the right translation, but there's no appropriate word in English. So it's emptiness or nothingness. So if you settle down into shunya meditation, it's not near death, it's actually death, but conscious death. Suppose you're riding a bicycle, you are a new rider with little balance, so you will go like this. Some other kid is riding, he'll leave his hands free and whistle and look here, look there and ride and do all kinds of things, stand up on the handlebar and turn around, jump, all this. Why? It's a certain mastery, certain balance and mastery. Now, you can jump off the cycle and again jump back and do all these things. Similarly with your body, if you have a certain amount of mastery, you can jump off and jump back quite effortlessly. Now it is happening accidentally because of some medication, or for many people during 60s, 70s, the LSD time, there were a whole lot of people talking about this thing, sir, it's your time. It was your time.
Oh, okay. Metaphorically.
So, a whole lot of people talking about this, and it really happened to them. It's not that they were imagining things, it actually happened to many of them. But it was also because it was hallucinatory. Nobody knows whether it's this or that. There's no way to for sure say it actually happened to them or not. But I've met many people of those times who genuinely experienced things with which their lives got transformed in many different ways. In a crazy way, but suddenly everything about them changed simply because somewhere they perceived this… you can yo-yo this body a little bit if you wish, it's not a permanent thing. Just that little awareness changed the way they perceive life and they behave and they do things in their life. So this near-death, I'm not really looked at any of the thing, but some people have told me, some popular books, they were saying they see angels and there's a tunnel going. See, one thing is, you must understand, when somebody is going on the surgery table, the doctors may be confident, the patient always fears that he may die. Hello? Doctors may be confident, they know the case, they know what they're doing, 99% of the time they're confident what they're doing. But the patient, once he closes his eyes and hands over his life to somebody, he always fears what will happen. So every small thing he thinks is death. It happens to people. If you put a gun to somebody's head and just shoot and miss them or it's a blank, they almost died. Near-death experience, they'll blank out for some time and then they come back. They really think they went away and they came back. And they saw the scene also from the top, because that's because of the Hollywood. So, human mind is capable of creating many dimensions of experiences. It need not be construed as death, it's life. First of all, anyway, I'm coming out with a book on death, an inside story. I'm doing this for 6.5 years, it's not complete yet.
Okay.
Hope in the next year or so I will come out with this. Why I'm saying this is, in reality, there is no such thing as death. It's life, life and life alone, moving from one dimension to another, another dimension to another. So if I lose one dimension, it looks like that is dead. Right now, it is a medical fact that they say approximately every fortnight, you're losing 7 kilograms of your existing body and something new has come in 1 fortnight. Whatever your weight, you must just calculate in how many fortnights you're completely lost. Everything that you have in your body is being lost continuously and something else is coming in. But you don't experience as that every meal and every day you empty your bowels, you must experience it as near death. But that doesn't happen to you. But this happens to you because there is some disengagement in your experience, first particularly because of anesthetic impact. The disengagement with various faculties that you're normally used to suddenly makes you feel you're dead. Nobody died. It's a completely wrong perception. Yes, every moment of your life, if you are willing, if you are not entangled with situations and your own thoughts and emotions, there are many things you can perceive right here. Right here, sitting here, you can look at your life from there, okay? This is not near death, this is life. But because, as I said, loss of faculties works out well for a lot of people, unfortunately. It's not a good thing. This happened. A man met a close friend of his that he knew very well when they were in the university together, after 25 years break. So he invited home for dinner, he went, and being an Indian household, the wife was serving and these two men were eating. And every time he wanted to ask for something from his wife, he said, "My honey, my sweetie pie, my boo-boo-boo, my coo-coo-coo, my bulbul." and whatever else, your Tamil, so my Tangam and my Chuttu, all those things. So after the dinner was over, the friend was leaving and he said, "You are having an amazing life, aren't you? I'm married with my wife for 15 years, we can't even look at each other's face. The way, the endearments you're showering upon your wife is truly fantastic." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You called her Bulbul, you called her Tangam, you called her this." I said, "Oh man, I forgot her name 7 years ago." Loss of faculties, unfortunately, work very well for a lot of people because they're suffering their faculties. The greatest faculties that have come to us after millions of years of evolution, unfortunately we suffer because we have not read the user's manual.